Anything else going on? You good? Everybody ready?
Yeah. Let's rock and roll.
You do have food in your teeth.
Yes. Please tell me you're recording already.
I am recording.
But you know, you're that friend we all need, right? Like so many people won't tell you.
At what point do you tell your spouse if she's got like a mustache that needs to be waxed?
I mean, I would hope whenever.
Whenever it's a problem.
Yeah.
When would you want to know?
Immediately.
Well, yeah, as soon as you know it's
like
an
you
issue.
wouldn't take it as offense from your
No.
husband or not.
No, especially if if you just say it at home, that's fine.
Exactly.
You know,
Don't
as long as you don't
do it
say
at dinner with friends.
Emily,
Yeah.
you don't, by the way. But
This is not applicable to
Yeah.
Emily Schneller.
but I'm just wondering because I assume that day will come. I just want to be prepped for it.
that one chin hair is coming.
I do have one of those. I have one of those that I plucked. It's right here.
Yeah, I get it.
But yeah, say something. Just-
Emily will randomly stop me in the bathroom and be like, "Come here," and come at me with tweezers and get my eyebrows and stuff like that. So this is funny. We were talking about this earlier. I used to do like 3 different colors in my hair and shave my legs. I had
Really?
earrings, all that.
I didn't know
kind of
about the
stuff.
legs.
Yeah, shave my legs. All this grooming, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't do any of that shit anymore, except get my hair cut every 2 weeks. And we were talking about like self-care and the level of self-care sometimes. And I think the level of self-care is higher when your self-esteem is lower.
Sure.
Like for me, the sexier I got over the years, the less I did in terms of my appearance. And now it's just like full on eyebrow bush. The wife's got to take care of it for me because
There you
I
go.
feel like I look pretty good. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that might depend on the person. I find that that's the case a lot of times.
Well, you're
So,
in a committed relationship. You know, you're sure of your spouse's commitment to you. So I think that means a lot too.
okay, I forgot to say this. I'll
But
edit this part out. Hold on.
Stop.
2:15.
you should leave that part in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna edit this out.
So what we want to do is we want to look like we want to be all up in the mic, okay? And I tell you that now because most people think they're speaking loud enough. They're not, okay? Also, you want to speak into this, not up here, all right? And get loud, all right? Like Morgan was tough to hear. You ever listen to our podcast?
Once or twice.
Fuck.
I'm busy.
Busy? You got a car with Bluetooth?
Yes.
Well, then you can listen to it in your car. What are you listening to? Like Whitesnake on the way to work?
More like Crossfade.
More like what?
Crossfade. I don't know.
What's the Crossfade? I don't even know what that is.
Crossfade? You don't know who that is?
No.
Oh, you might want to do that.
Who's Crossfade?
Maybe if I can't
It's a
think
band.
We're going to look
Stand
it up
by.
real quick. Stand by.
Oh, jeez.
All right, y'all. I don't know what Crossfade is, so we're going to check this out real quick. This could be like that. Remember that time
What time?
you said, oh, you would love this song? And
Cold down. No.
it's an ad. It's an ad. Hold tight.
There's
So-
definitely been times where you're like, I don't know that song, and I play it for you, and you know half the words already.
All right. This is Crossfade for all of you old people out there, like myself. Look at
Damn.
this. This is old, 2009.
That's so old. Okay.
All right, Joe likes it
exactly.
hard. Okay, so welcome to With That Being Said, a Roux Fitness podcast.
Just went in there.
We have a very special guest with us, Joellen. Joellen, how do you say your last name?
Desselles.
That's what I thought, but I normally botch a lot of things, time, names on here, so I wanted to make sure we got it right. So, Joellen has been a member at Roux for 2 years.
Over.
Yeah.
I suck at this game. So for over 2 years, I was there. A lot of your very first classes. So
Yes, you were.
So awesome stuff there. Awesome sauce. We also have with us the Clyde Edwards-Helaire of everything, Miss Sarah Altobello.
See, back to LSU.
And I am the mayor of Rouville, a.k.a. Joe Burrow of everything.
And the humble servant.
And the humble servant of the podcast world, Bradley Schneller.
Beautiful.
Insert clapping noise here. So, all right. We got a cool show for us today. We are talking about adaptive fitness. A little bit more about that and what you guys do in terms of helping people live their life, and what we're going to try to do at Roux to make it more inclusive. So, Joe, you're an occupational therapist.
Correct.
For the past 5 years.
Correct.
Insert clapping noise.
Everyone gets clapping noise.
So what does occupational... So, I mean, look, I called you a physical therapist earlier. I know what occupational therapists are, but I don't know what exactly it all encompasses. So can you let us know for all of the Bradley Schnellers out there who have their head in the sand?
Sure. So occupational therapy is basically getting patients or individuals back to functioning for themselves independently. So whenever, you have any type of brain injury or diagnosed with some type of neurological disorder or you suffer a tragedy such as amputation, occupational therapy helps you recover and get back to doing things for yourself instead of depending on someone else.
Yeah.
Nice.
Self-care task, the whole 9 yards.
So would it, like most patients you see, is it like someone that suffered a trauma or?
Yes and no. I mean, I see a lot of patients with different things: surgery, finger surgeries, hand surgeries, it's a carpal tunnel, then stroke. I see a lot of stroke, TBI.
What's TBI?
Traumatic brain injury.
Oh, okay.
Sorry with the acronyms.
Yeah.
Here we go. Medical person on. It's another Jonathan Burke on the podcast.
Dorsiflexion.
No, I'm definitely not him.
So, hot mic, we're live. So, like, what is? Yeah, I just want to know what is something that might be like hard to overcome, but you wouldn't think it. Like, obviously, TBI, traumatic brain injury, seems like something rather difficult to come back from. But what's something pretty simple that's like, fuck, this is a pretty hard injury to overcome?
I'll tell you right now, the distal joint of a finger breaking, like having a avulsion fracture in a distal joint of a finger, you wouldn't realize how much it affects your grip strength.
Really?
Oh, man. And people struggle for months and months. I mean, I've had patients for close to a year because the distal joint is so delicate that the surgeon winds up having to go back in twice. There's mallet finger, and it's the craziest thing. I never would have thought that until I began orthopedic care. Mm-hmm. But that is the one thing that...
Wow.
And I can only imagine, I'm sure you have to but there's a lot of the emotional, mental struggle that comes along with that, from anywhere from something like a traumatic brain injury to just, I imagine there's a lot of frustration for someone who's dealing with that kind of injury. The average person isn't going to realize that it could potentially take that long to recover or adapt from that.
Exactly. You're right. You're absolutely right. And it's just about, trying to help them through that process and then getting them back to, their previous level of function.
Yeah.
How much like anger do you have to deal with from patients with therapy?
A lot, especially with the neurological injuries such as CVA or TBI.
What's CVA?
I'm sorry, stroke.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They get mad because half of their body is non-functioning. I would be mad too. I'd be doing something.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had a patient yesterday. We've been having him since June. He's great. CVA patient had a flaccidity with his hand. Wasn't working at all. No movement, no active anything. So I did some e-stim on his upper traps. And when we finished, I told him to picture in his mind that he was squeezing a water bottle. and I put a little basketball in his hand, and he started moving it. And we've been having him since June. So, I mean, the reward is just, and he keeps crying. You know, I mean, it's great. So you just got to stay with it. You really do.
Wow. So, Joe, you've been doing this for 5 years, right? What did you do before?
I was a student
Okay.
for 6. And then before that, I was in property management for First Lake.
Okay, cool. What was the catalyst for you to want to get into occupational therapy?
Always. When I was a little girl, I went to occupational therapy as a patient at Children's Hospital. And they had the big block letters above the doors, the double doors that I would go into therapy. And we would wait and wait and wait. So, because it was like the only outpatient clinic for kids. So I would sit there and try to memorize how to spell occupational. And my mom's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I have to know how to spell what I'm going to do one day."
Oh, that's cool.
Very.
That's incredible.
What did you go there for?
My arm. So
Okay.
I congenitally, I'm missing my left arm.
So,
transradial.
So Joe is an adaptive athlete herself, and I didn't know it was from childhood. So, what happened? Can you tell us? Or? Birth?
Yeah. They think my mother had her uterus was like retrograde, and they think that I got into the corner and the arm could not develop because I was born breech. Like, she delivered me breech. It was the whole, it was crazy. So, but she wasn't on any medication or anything. So,
Do you think it is harder or easier to grow up with one arm? Easier than to lose it midlife or as an adult? Because of kind of what you were talking about from a brain perspective, right?
That's right.
So Joe was telling before the show that one of the biggest struggles is the brain function when you lose a limb.
Right. So you have homunculus, right? So your primary motor cortex is here, and that part of your brain is basically mapped out to be able to move certain things, digits, hands, elbow, all the things. So when you lose a limb, that cortical space is still allocated for that limb, but it's not there anymore. So that's why the phantom pain, so you have to retrain your brain. So you have to will your brain to say, okay, this isn't here, it's not working, or whatever. We have to do everything on the other side and, come up with ways to be able to do this.
Right. Whereas you grew up like that.
Right. I didn't have to ever think about it like that. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. What was it like growing up?
I grew up in the late 70s and early 80s. It was tough.
Yeah.
A lot of making fun of.
Yeah.
But you know what? You learn to have tough skin, and you just move on.
Fucking kids. I swear to God.
Kids are brutal.
I swear to God. Like, I always talk about this. I don't know what is worse, is if my kid gets bullied or if my kid is the bully. Both suck.
True.
Right?
So true. Yes.
I'm going to lose my shit either way.
Exactly. I tell my daughter all the time, I'm like, I'm telling you, if you ever come home and I find out, she's like, Mom, I would never. I'm like, all right.
Just checking.
Just checking.
I want to lay down the law now.
So Sarah recently finished an adaptive certification.
Yeah, so I'm an adaptive and inclusive trainer through the Adaptive Training Academy, which was originally affiliated with CrossFit, but then I think part of it was they wanted it to not just be labeled under that umbrella. And so, yeah, I finished that last week.
That's awesome. Congrats.
So, yeah, one of the silver linings, thank you, of COVID was that this was an in-person seminar that on the one hand, I'm really bummed I missed. But I think with the amount of reading and the video tutorials, like while I miss the in-person connection of talking to these instructors, I think I got a lot more out of it. Because I can't imagine what I did online getting through in 16 hours in a weekend somewhere. I really can't.
Right.
I have, I think, close to 50 pages of notes, like handwritten front and back.
Wow.
And that's why it took me so long, because I really wanted to dig into it, and I wouldn't have had that opportunity if we'd been moving faster.
So Sarah, what was the catalyst for you wanting to do this cert?
So it was mostly my dad. My dad has MS, and while his issues are mostly cognitive, before he got on some pretty intense meds when I was a kid, he would get these flare-ups, and he's got this lesion that, heaven forbid it gets any bigger, but if it gets bigger, my dad's going to lose most of the function in the right side of his body. So I remember he had a flare up when I was 9 or 10, I think. And he could not use the right side of his body for a week. Like, he couldn't get out of bed. He couldn't function. And even there were other times where, like, maybe his legs were okay, but he's right-handed. He would do all of the bills. I remember a couple times my mom would have to, like, put his signature on things. Like, he couldn't use his right arm. And I think I just wanted to, it started from that. Like, how, if my dad walked in and was having a flare up, how could I keep him included in the workout and not feeling like he was scaling or that he was the center of attention? How could he just fit in, or someone like him, whether it be temporary or permanent impairments, come in and feel included?
Joe, how did you
here.
feel when you first came to Roux? Because, I mean, I remember I started doing some of those classes and I was like, fuck. Like, I didn't want to make you feel like that. You know what I mean?
No, you didn't. Neither did Peter or Kevin. Because that's, you three were, when I first got here, y'all were coaching a lot. And I didn't feel like that at all. I was a little intimidated, I must admit, just because it's a lot of heavy lifting, right? I'm not going to sling the barbell and do the back squats and the front squats. I mean, it's just not, it's not me. It's not my style.
Right.
But, I figured out a way, and you helped me several times with some things, and you work through it as long as...
Yeah, I imagine a lot, like, being an occupational therapist, you had a level of knowledge for you to be able to function on your own, basically, in the class, and for lack of better words, adapt in the class, right? I do remember, though, I was like, fuck, don't just act like she's got two arms. I was like, I didn't know it. I mean, looking back upon that, and then, we became good friends. And it was never weird. No. It was almost intimidating for me.
Really?
Because I was like, how can I coach her and crush her? You know what I mean? Like everybody else. But by not making you feel like you couldn't do anything that we were in class.
I appreciate the effort. I really do.
Yeah, no certifications.
Well, and I mean, so I was going through all of this, and there were a lot of like very specific tools I picked up, especially working with someone that's got some neurological issues, some really great tools. But a lot of the things I think we already do a good job of here because we are a tight-knit community, and I think there's really good communication between the coaches and the members. But it was just a good reminder to, I think if we are feeling that way, to sit down with someone and just maybe not right before a class, but have that open conversation so that we're all kind of on the same page. So we don't, like, if someone else, and hopefully other people will come into this environment with impairments that feel safe and comfortable, but having that conversation ahead of time and having it be a comfortable learning experience for both parties.
Now, Joe, you were saying before we started that there are a lot of people that possibly want to get into fitness that have adaptive needs. I don't know how to say it, but but don't know where to go or don't have anything for it, right?
Definitely.
So what would a facility look like? Just any place? I mean, I guess you could walk into any place, basically, huh?
Sure. I mean, the thing about it is when a person who has, a little bit less of a capability with the arm strength or, lower extremity strength, they kind of maybe feel intimidated.
Right.
To come in a place like this, which is basically curtailed to, normal functioning individuals. However, if you market it, they will come.
Right. Yeah, it's funny, like you say, that intimidation factor, and it's almost no different from anyone. Whereas one of the, like, for example, I mean, my cousin doesn't have adaptive needs, but she came into Endurance on Sunday, and she she owns Creole Creamery on Metairie Road, and she dropped like a bucket of ice cream, like a 5-pound bucket, on her ankle, and it cut all the way to the bone. So she's been like limping. Yeah, she's been like limping around. Well, she came on Sunday, but she couldn't put any pressure on that. Also, like, she's got like some cervical spine issues. That's more than just scoliosis, I believe. So we couldn't do maybe a lot of hinging things with the back. We basically changed the entire workout for her. And she's like, oh my God, if I would have known that, I wouldn't have come. If I would have known you would have had to change the whole workout, I wouldn't have come. And I was like, no, that's our job.
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to do. So it's just interesting. I feel like to some extent, every person can feel that way. And that's almost no different. Like we're here,
right.
We're like a boutique fitness gym. We're here to modify the fitness to what is going to get you specifically the best workout.
Right. And I think there was a big emphasis in the certification with adapting versus scaling.
Right.
And I think understanding the difference is really important. And I think people, and not that even scaling is bad. Like, I don't want to say it's one is better than the other, but I think people don't want to scale. They want to be seen as doing everything else the class is doing.
Definitely.
But for some people, you just have to adapt the workout to keep them moving and keep them functioning at as high a level as possible. And that's not a bad thing. Scaling is more, it's scaling weight or
That's
maybe
why.
reps.
That's why I've always used, and I've tried. I always say scaling in some level because I've been saying it for a decade. You know. But a few years ago, I tried to make the switch to modifications because it's just a different connotation.
PC.
Yeah. Well, it's PC, but it gets people more positive and energized
Right.
about the workout, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, we're going to modify this workout to make it the best workout for you, rather than saying, I'm going to
use that word.
Right. I'm going to scale
you
this
did.
workout for you. Well,
Right.
now they feel less than, right?
Scaling immediately makes people shrink.
Yeah. And I mean, the idea is to make it as intense as possible for each individual person. So if that means like you need to do less weight to have an intense workout, well, that's what I want you to do.
Exactly.
Less weight, right?
Yeah.
So if I have to modify a movement or some type of fitness apparatus in order to give you an intense workout, that's what we got to do. But that's what we're here to do.
Right.
So, Sarah, from your training, what are some big things maybe that we have done that now you would view differently and how we should change in order to accommodate certain people?
I think kind of looking at, I think we do a good job of adapting workouts for people. And this is something we can even really take into account with like our older group. We think a lot about like the stimulus and we do a good job there. But I think sitting down and instead of saying, oh, you can't do a handstand hold, maybe let's do this instead. But then what would that real world transference be? And coming up with something instead based on like, how is this going to help them when they leave here versus how is this going to appropriately kind of keep them in class and mimic what the more able-bodied people are doing. So like the example that stuck out to me was a seated athlete that has like some hip function can do a deadlift, you know?
Definitely.
Right.
But depending on what the rest of the workout is for class, you might have them do a bicep curl because a deadlift is how they can take something from the ground to standing. So with someone that is seated, how do you get that thing from the ground? You can pick it up, you
have
can
to curl it.
you can put it onto your lap.
Right.
So thinking
You're not standing with
about, so taking moments, kind of looking at your demographic and trying to figure out like, okay, they can do this, but can I give them a movement that's going to help them once they leave the gym?
I like it.
Yes.
That was one of the biggest things I think I took away.
Carryover.
Yeah. And that it doesn't, like, you will have to kind of play this game where you do want to kind of keep the workout looking the same to make them feel super included. But, like, sometimes it's just more effective and going to be more beneficial for them to think about real world transference.
Definitely.
I like it. Joe, have you ever taken anything we've done at Roux and used it?
Absolutely.
All right. That's what I like to hear.
The Z press is my favorite. So as we know, the COVID has left some people really with a lot of generalized weakness, especially those individuals who were on a ventilator for 6 weeks. So we do the Z press to get that GH strength, the glenohumeral, and it works every time.
Nice.
Like, man, she knows. I'm like,
Do you do it with a barbell or dumbbells?
Dumbbells.
Dumbbells?
Yeah.
Because the interesting thing though is like from a seated athlete, you know, the Z press is really good is if they're on the ground, like if they get out of a chair and get on the ground, because you technically have to clean it
Yeah.
to the shoulder. So you
Exactly.
get like two movements in one.
Exactly.
So it can be a really good movement. I like it
Yeah.
Me too.
also. Plus a lot of core strength there. So
Exactly.
has like, what have you seen over the years, Joe? Like, are things that maybe you were programmed to think in the beginning that has changed over time for you, or maybe how occupational therapy has evolved over the past 5 years? That's a lot, I know.
It is. So OT has definitely evolved because of even the last 5 years, because our neurological injuries such as stroke, CVA, there are more survivors. So stroke doesn't really kill people like it once did.
Right.
And we have a lot
Why
of
is that?
individuals.
I'm just wondering.
Science.
Okay. It's science.
I'm sure it's a little different for each person, but because the science
Definitely.
is more evolved, you can help.
Right.
Well, they, when an ambulance shows up to a home or wherever, and someone we think is suffering a stroke, they can give them a specific medication.
In the moment.
And
Right.
in the
Good.
moment, it can stop it right away.
Wow.
Right.
It's incredible.
But there has to be clearance to give the patient. So it's a big hairy deal, but it can help. So right, if you've seen one stroke, you've seen one stroke, because there are no two alike. Trust me.
Right. Huh. So I guess if in the moment like that, if you were able to stop the stroke, then you're able to slow down or pause the degenerative like brain function, right? Or like,
Well, it kind of, increases the blood flow to the brain, right?
Right.
So basically, an ischemic accident, stops blood flow to a specific part of the brain. So then that brain becomes, starving. It's starving. So that's why you have the injury. So the longer that part of the brain is without oxygen and blood flow,
Right.
oxygen, it will have that greater of a deficit when the stroke is over.
wow. Okay. What about in terms of the fitness aspect of occupational therapy? Because you do a lot of that, right? How has that changed over the past 5 years? Because I imagine it has, much like physical therapy or fitness in general has changed so much in 5 years or evolved. Like, how has it changed for you
For me, as
as an occupational therapist?
as an occupational therapist, so with my caseload, you mean?
Or just in general, like the things you do, different views on how to handle patients, stuff like that. Has that changed at all?
Oh, definitely. It's always evolving. I would love to do that course that Sarah did, because it's totally about the things I like and enjoy and do every day. But I really believe that over the past 5 years, we have come up with better ways to help people reach, a better fitness, a better functioning. It's not about just being able to, brush your teeth, although it is, but we have to strengthen those muscles to bring that arm up to be able to brush your teeth.
Right.
So it is coming full circle, I think. And people are more motivated to build muscle.
That's good to hear, because I feel like maybe the earth isn't, but it's good to hear that your patients are more motivated, because we're trying to kick butts and take names here, but it's definitely good to hear that. So I think one of the coolest things, though, is, Joe, you've been like an adaptive athlete since birth, basically.
Yes.
Okay. And your dad has had MS for how long?
I think like 32, 33 years.
Wow.
And both Sarah's dad and Joe are super fit, right?
Very active, yeah.
Okay.
You're
so
Joe. You're really
fit.
fit. You're really fit.
Stop. Okay.
Sometimes you're dragging me along in an endurance workout. So
They
Come on.
actually think there's no proof. There's still so much unknown about MS, as there are many things, but my dad was a runner pre-diagnosis, and he continued to run. Like, he didn't ever let that derail him. He did have to make adjustments along the way. But they think the fact that he kept running is a huge reason why it potentially like might not have affected the parts of his brain as much, that he's not in a wheelchair. So
Yeah.
Definitely.
Wow, that's awesome. So that just shows, though, between your dad, you, countless other people that we've come in contact with, there are no excuses.
Yep. I don't allow patients to say the word can't.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
yeah.
There's no can't in Roux. Let's get it.
Yeah.
We'll figure out a
There's
way.
literally no C-A-N-T in R-O-U-X. How about that?
I like it.
Oh, alphabet soup for you on a
New
Wednesday.
catchphrase.
Although it's Friday.
I was
But it's
about to
Wednesday when you hear this.
But for everyone else, it's Wednesday.
Yeah. Yeah. So, cool. What would you like to see basically fitness as a whole do in order to accommodate adaptive athletes a little bit better?
I do think that there has to be a way to get everyone included in the things that they like to do. I would love to be able to participate more in the bar workouts. Wrist flexion is a given. So, and I'm sure there are other individuals who would like to do, some things like that or whatever. But I think that, on that level, being able to just find the right equipment and find the right, strategy to get them to the level that, or, if someone is like wanting to compete, let's
Right.
say, and they have, needs that need modifying needs, let's say, I think that I would like to come up with a way, maybe we can work on that.
Yeah.
To be able to
I'm
participate
definitely
in
down for
Mardi
that.
Gras, you know what I mean? Just something like that. I mean, because it is about self-esteem and self-confidence. It makes you feel good.
Yeah. So, what are some of the ways that you have for our listeners out there that haven't worked out with you? And for those that don't go to the Roux, those listeners do exist. But what are some of the ways you have already made some adaptations on your own to some of the things we do? I know you hate the rower.
Well, I did it this morning, but I did all arms.
There you go. All right.
Yeah. But, I do a lot of dumbbell, and I do upgrade the weight. I was on 15 for the longest, then I was on 20. Then COVID hit, and I went back
Right.
to 15. So now
Right.
I'm on 20 on the right. I would like to add weight on the left, but it's a little hairy.
Have you tried straps before? Have you seen that? I almost sent you a video the other day. You could do cleans or deadlifts.
For the barbell.
For the
Oh,
barbell.
yes. Yes. We will talk.
Do you? Okay.
Have
All right.
seen.
If you're
We'll
interested,
talk
I will
later.
buy them. If you're interested, I'll buy them.
I thought about it, but the only thing is that my residual limb in the prosthesis is short, and I can't afford to have any bone issues.
Got
That's,
you.
That's my only
Right.
hesitation. So we'd have to start slow with lightweight.
Right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What about for you, Sarah?
Sorry, in terms of
Adaptations or equipment that Roux needs, or is there any? Or
I think more specific equipment comes with more neurological impairments. I think with a lot of physical impairments, it's just adjusting things we already have.
Right.
It is maybe rearranging the wall balls so that someone who's seated, all the 8s and 10s are not up top. It's making adjustments to the arrangement and the equipment we already have, per se. But a lot of when you get into the neurological stuff, it's getting more whiteboards and photos and
Yes.
things like that. And I will say, this is kind of off topic, but backtracking a little, but something I like about the way this certification was set up too, is it is all focused on getting this person in class on their own, essentially with any coach. And it basically goes from them working one-on-one with an adaptive trainer, to them shadowing them and working out with them in class, to them literally just watching them, to them feeling like they have all the tools they need to do it on their own. But
Autonomy.
yeah, full autonomy.
I love it.
good.
You guys have anything to add?
Not that I can think of right now. I'm sure
Well,
we'll come up with
I don't know,
something
but
later.
just talking about it, I was very
You get excited, I can tell.
Yeah, I was very excited to get this certification, and talking about it and thinking about it more and more. And I've been talking with Carl. He's been sending me things like
yes.
every couple of days. So I'm really
Great.
excited to sit down with
I
Carl.
always forget about Carl. Sorry, Carl.
No, but he does so much on his own.
Right.
He does.
You know?
He's
Right.
sent me stuff before. He's great. I mean,
Yeah. Yes, Carl did
Mattress.
just get a bunch of adaptive equipment. That's our producer in the background, y'all. Just, she doesn't add anything to the show, just takes away. So
I will say, not that it's going to make the rower any more fun, but if we have any gymnastics rings sitting around, they show a tip for putting that on the rower so it's a little easier.
yeah.
I think we
Lacing
might.
through those little holes can be problematic sometimes.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Okay. All right. I'm down with that. All right, y'all. If you know any adaptive athletes that are looking to get into fitness, send them our way. We're ready to get it
Yeah.
on. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Roux_fitness. Remember, like, share, and subscribe the podcast to all your friends. 5-star ratings only, and
Only
only
nice things to
only
say.
nice things to say.
Nice
So,
words or bust.
but seriously, leave a comment. All right, we love you guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.